Welcome to another episode of Tales from the Tables with your host, Rob Bradley. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Tales from the Tables, episode 8. In fact, I'm your host, Rob Bradley, and I'm joined today with James, my JC, James, my JC. James, my JC. James, my co-host, and also JC, my other co-host. And we also have a special guest, Hary Jepheart, one of the Rolldark GMs. Hey, Hary, how you doing?
Hey, thanks very much for having me.
Yeah, good to have you, man. Good to have you. So we've managed to pull ourselves away from playing Baldur's Gate to record this podcast today. Well, I think it might actually be me. Yeah, it's me, isn't it?
More than others.
You've managed to do this. Now let's see how long it takes to edit it. That's an important question.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But no, welcome to the podcast, Hary. Great to have you on, man.
Yeah, it's great. I was just thinking, this is like, you guys are the ones who decided whether or not the three of you, decided whether or not I joined Rolldark way in the beginning.
You know, that's actually true, isn't it? We
played a good scenario that you.
We played half a game that I never finished because I was a mess that night. Whole thing. Oh yeah, we'll get more.
If that was you being a mess, then I am very impressed.
Yeah, well, you were awesome.
Fabulous.
We can get into in a bit why I thought it was a massive mess and go through that.
Yeah. Of course.
How long ago was that? That was about 2 years ago, wasn't it?
That was very beginning of 2021, or I think we did it.
Wow.
December 2020 is when I had the
interview
with you guys. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So a while ago now.
Oh, fun.
Ooh.
Okay.
Bloody hell.
I know. It feels like it was yesterday. Where have the last 2 years gone?
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's quite a harrowing experience, like a couple of years, isn't it, when you think about it, the pandemic and stuff. But hopefully all behind us now, which is nice. Yeah. Now we just stay in and watch Netflix anyway and play computer games.
Yeah, so nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so funny because I used to wear shirts to work. Now I just wear like t-shirts and hoodies, and like I wear trainers and jeans. And I used to wear like trousers and shirts and stuff, and be like really smart. And now I'm just like, nah. What's the point?
Yeah, what's the point?
Yeah, what's the point?
Yeah, you'd be surprised by the lack of pants that I have. No, I'm kidding. I'm recording in pants. Don't worry.
I do that though. I do that. I wear I don't not wear anything like below the camera. Whenever I'm playing a game, but I will wear like tracksuit bottoms, and then I'll put on a shirt just to look nice for the players. And
someone pointed it out to me yesterday. You can always tell when you're walking down the street and you see someone picking up their food order for lunch or something like that coming to the front door to pick up their takeaway, and you see them in like a nice, starched shirt with good collar, maybe even a tie and a jacket, and then beneath that they're just in like gym shorts or just boxers or trainers. And you're like, they're a Zoom person. I see.
Yeah. Oh dear me. So how's Edinburgh, JC? You still there?
Oh my God, beautiful. Yes, yeah. As a matter of fact, I have a bit of an update on that. I have been asked to stay for the whole month, so I am not flying back to New York for a few weeks. I'm still in the field, as it
were. When are you flying back?
I know what you're asking. I think it's the 28th.
28th.
Yeah. Something like the 28th or 29th of August. Right? Yeah.
Oh, great.
Okay. But yeah, we're doing. I mean, again, if you guys find yourselves coming up to Edinburgh, please stop by Underbelly Cowgate and watch Batsu at 10:45 p.m.
Oh, you're at Cowgate. I know where that is.
You know it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I know. It's such a great city.
Yeah.
Have you had a chance to do one of the walking tours yet? One of the
but that's definitely on our list. We have a couple of friends coming in a little bit later in the month, and we're reserving most of our sort of touristy bits for them. But for now, we're seeing a lot of other shows and supporting our friends and other things, and getting drunk. I mean, we're drinking responsibly.
Okay. I have quite a funny story about Edinburgh actually, because the last time I was there, when we went up for holiday, we went on a ghost tour, and this guy called Joe was the guy who gave us the tour, and he was really, really good, really good. And he kept looking at me, and he kept like going like sort of like trying to chat to me, and I was like, oh hi, and he was like, so what do you do for a living? And I said, oh, I run a games sort of an agency for game masters playing Dungeons and Dragons and other role playing games. And he was like, it's not Rolldark, is it? And I was like, yes, it is. And he was like, oh, it's like, I've been wanting to apply. And I was like, well, you should. You're very good. And now he's on our books. So yeah, so now he's like,
who is it?
Who is that?
He's only just joined. He's had a few problems going on in his personal life, so he's not been able to like get like fully commit just yet. But we're just sort of going through the onboarding process at the moment. But yeah,
right on. Is he here? Is he in Edinburgh?
He's in Edinburgh. Yeah. He's one of the ghost tour guides. He's got long blonde hair, and he puts on like a raspy voice, and he plays like one of the doctors who used to steal bodies from the. He used to basically steal this doctor in the olden days used to steal bodies from Edinburgh and take them into like his hospital to do like experiments on them and stuff.
How cool is that?
Really
that's so cool.
Is it the one that's got the incredible name Ghostbusters?
Yeah, I saw those. We keep seeing those drive by, and we're like, we have to do that just for the name alone, and for the fact that I have a black curtain. We have to do those. Yeah, right. No, that's awesome. Thanks. Let's connect after the call. I totally want to look him up.
You definitely should. Yeah, it'd be cool.
Vet him.
Okay.
Yeah. So, is your show, JC? Your show's been. Who's asked you to extend it?
Oh, basically our show was booked for the whole month, but I was originally only going to be kind of like a guest performer in for a few days. So now basically the improv company, Face Off Unlimited, has asked me to stay the whole duration. So I'm here for the month.
Peachy keen.
Cheers. Appreciate it.
What's the company called? A blast. Face
Off Unlimited. Yeah. Face Off. Right. Like the John Travolta movie. Yeah,
with Nicolas Cage.
yeah,
brilliant. The classic.
Yeah. John Woo, wasn't it? John Woo?
I think so, actually.
Yeah, I think it's John Woo. That's crazy.
Nice.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Nice. It's been a long time since I've been in Edinburgh. I did a show as well in like 2016, I think.
Nice.
When I it wasn't nice. It was
no.
The show that I did. The experience of going up to Edinburgh was fantastic because my university did this really cool thing where if you pitched a show every year, like people would pitch shows, and then the Drama Society would give them £1,000 to put towards a budget to take up a show. And
cool.
Like a bunch of other societies did it, so loads of people from my university would go up, and the Comedy Society would put one up there, like Shakespeare Society, Classic Society, and then the Drama. And I was part of a team to take one up, and I just wanted to take anything up because you can put anything up on the Edinburgh Fringe show. But the show we ended up taking was really, really awful, and I just was like, after the first performance, I just hated everything about the whole show. When we went up there. When we went up there, our show wasn't ready by the time we went up there. We had we had 4 days. We went up there for 10 days. We had 6 days of performing, and then we had 4 days before that where we still had like the hotel booked and everything, but the show wasn't ready. So we were rehearsing it out in the car park of the hotel that we were staying at. And we were all just like, this is going to be bad. And then we did nothing in our tech rehearsal but argue. Everyone was arguing, and you get like an hour for tech rehearsal because everyone's got to have their fair share. And in the end, I just went, this is an hour out of my day from like 4 till 5. The whole rest of the day is just mine. I'm just going to go see as many shows, because I don't know if they still do it, JC, but if you're part of, like, you were part of Underbelly, I can't remember what mine was. It was like a
you get basically like a pass to go see other shows. You get a pass,
right, so you can see other shows for free. For like all those kind of companies. So that's all I did, and watch Free Fringe as well, which is arguably better than any show you pay for.
Really?
There's a myriad of stuff. I think there's something like over 3,000 shows going on.
There's a lot
simultaneously.
Wow, bloody hell!
Yeah, it's insane. And there's some really big names here. We saw Monet Exchange do a performance. There's some obviously lots and lots of unheard, but it's a blast.
Do they still do?
It's a lot of fun.
yeah, it's fantastic. Do they still do Shitface Showtime and Shitface
I have
Shakespeare?
not seen ads for that, but I'm going to look that up because that sounds amazing.
If there is one, they're like a huge company that always sold out. They're like one of the big ones. They get the big venues.
Shitface Shakespeare, it's called.
Shitface Shakespeare, and there's also Shitface Showtime, where they do any show. Like, for example, I went and watched it. It was one of the best ones I've watched. It's like proper production and everything, but they did The Wizard of Oz, and every night a different cast member, they get super drunk like before the show starts. And I went on the night where they had Dorothy as like the drunk one. I don't think they tell you. I don't think they tell you which cast member is drunk. And then they've got like a master of ceremonies who honks a horn if things get like out of line, because we had a moment in the show where Dorothy was like off her nut and she was just going all this and that, and then she put a broom on the ground. She like threw a broom on the ground, kicked it, and it smacked someone in the front row. So then this huge like honking sound goes off, and we had to like stop the show and be like, "Are you okay? Are you all right?" And then there's also, they give a person in the audience a sick bucket, and they go and they do like a little dry run. They go like, we've got to pretend that they're about to be sick. How quick can you get on stage and like give the bucket over? It's really, really fun. I definitely recommend it.
That's a great idea for a show.
It's a great idea, right? It's so simple. And they do it with Shakespeare shows as well. And
we have something similar in New York called Drunk Shakespeare. It's a little bit more of an intimate setting, but they do basically like a slightly revised version of any sort of Shakespeare work. And there's one audience member, same concept. They get trashed and they have to perform, and there's it's always random and changes every night. It's a lot of fun.
Are there any D&D shows up there or role playing?
You know what? There is something that I wanted to see. I think it's forget the name of it right now, but the poster has this really epic bearded dude on it, and already I'm hooked. You know how it is with me. So I forget what it's called. It's Dungeons and something.
Oh
no! It's Dungeons and something, and it's only playing a little bit later in the month, so I haven't had a chance to see it yet. But I feel like there's room for more, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I also haven't seen all 3,000 advertisements that I'm sure are everywhere in the city, so I'm making my way through them. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, because we are still, I think, the UK still doesn't have a Critical Role equivalent. You know.
Yeah, a lot of critters in the UK, and just not its own.
Yeah. And people have tried to emulate it, but they just don't quite get it right, because it's like because I think geeks don't like to watch other geeks play D&D. I think they want to watch like cool people play D&D. And when you look at Critical Role, they're all pretty cool, aren't they?
I think that's a thing, right? Like a lot of the voice acting work in animation is based in LA, and thus that's why they have that pool of talent to pull from. Sure, of course, it started as a group of friends and etc. But I think if someone's trying to achieve the same thing here in the UK, it would have to be like whatever the equivalent is here.
Yeah,
where the hot animation industry is. So either London, Pinewood Studios, whatever. Right?
I'd like to see like, how you have like panel shows like 8 out of 10 Cats and that kind of thing. It would be good if they had a load of those comedians playing D&D. That'd be quite cool. Kind of like what with them. Like
the Red Nose Day
sort of did they do it?
Thing where they did that? I think. Yeah, I remember. Wow. I'm sure Sue Perkins was one of the comedians that did it. I can't remember who the other cast was, but they were all like relatively like big comedians, that sort of level, all playing D&D. I think there might have been like a Josh Widdicombe, Nish Kumar, one of those sort of like like era comedians in there as well. I didn't get to see it, but I know they were. I saw advertisements for them, seeing them play it.
Yeah, it'd be cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe I should contact ITV.
Because
ITV.
That's the thing
with treatment ideas.
With big names like that, there's no way you can get them for like every week and convince them like this could be a career, like this could be, because with Critical Role it's become like they made it into a company and now they all play roles in that company, so it's a steady stream of income for all of them as workers.
It's the ideal scenario, right? That's like kind of the dream achievement, right? Start as a group of friends playing D&D, make a company out of it, everybody gets a role in that company. It's perfect. It's like the trifecta.
Sell merch and yeah.
Yeah. is incredible what they've done. Definitely. So, so James, what news have we got this week?
Well, some big and exciting news from Gen Con is that there was a heist before it even started, where quite a lot of stuff's been nicked. In fact, $300,000 worth of trading cards have been stolen off the trading floor before Gen Con started.
Great.
What?
So
that's horrific.
Any like what was the trading card game? Was it Magic?
No, they've not announced like what it was. The only thing we know is it's not. So there's another bit of news I have is there is a new Disney trading card game called Lorcana that is coming out.
I've heard about this. I remember this announcement from years ago.
Yeah. So it's releasing in September, but they're selling or giving out cards at Gen Con because of course they are.
Right.
So they've come out to say it's not us. Don't worry if you've queued 16 hours to line up for these cards. We still have those. You don't need to panic. So yeah, it could be Magic. It could be Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, any of like the big ones. But 300K's worth, like an entire palette of cards.
Holy shit!
Nicked. So yeah.
Wonder how many rares and mystic cards they got in there. Probably worth more than 300,000.
How do we know it was nicked and not just like like DHL screwing up or something like that, right?
Okay, so yeah, it's a weird one, but they have confirmed that it was stolen. And the Indiana police are calling on public for help in finding the thieves because they have very little to go on, despite the fact that they have used, they think, a forklift truck to remove a pallet of cards.
See, that's absolutely genius because they're literally hiding in plain sight. Do you know what I mean? No one will question a forklift truck. They'll be like, "Oh, it's a forklift truck, just going about doing forklift truck business."
Just moving stuff about. Yeah,
it's like those Hat and Garden guys who stole all those diamonds that time. They just looked like workmen.
Yeah.
I also love that the Indiana State Police are asking for help. Well, clearly they're not nerdy enough to know enough about the card game to track it down themselves. So they're like, nerds of Indiana, please assist us.
They're like, no, we might get cheap cards if we buy direct from the thieves.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
You see that? I don't know if you guys have been following much of the Magic the Gathering stuff, but there's a guy. So at the moment, the latest deck that's come out is based on Middle Earth and
Lord of the Rings.
And there was one ring within the decks. Like the one ring was actually a card that you could get, and there was only one of them. And this guy found it, and it's worth like 1.5 million or something ridiculous.
Didn't someone buy it? Wasn't it Post Malone who bought it for 2 million or something like that?
He bought it. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, that was my exact reaction, Harry.
Yeah.
The One Ring card.
Yeah, right. So awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was explaining to my fiance Charlotte about it, and I was saying yeah, Magic the Gathering cards. You know, I bought a deck once. I bought like a booster pack for £3.50 once, and got a card in there worth 50 quid.
Wow.
She was like, really?
Nice.
I was like, yeah. And she was like, well, why aren't you buying more of them? I was like, who sent you?
Who are you and what have you done with that?
Say that again. Do you want me to buy Magic the Gathering cards? Winnie ninny. And I hope I get like a really good one. Okay, sweet.
And that's how they get you. That's how you drop £500 looking for a £50 card.
Exactly. Right.
I imagine it's going to be a little bit like with the stolen cards, like that kid, because it happened in my primary school where a kid stole people's cards, and then all of a sudden they start coming into school the next week with like, guys, you never guess what card like I found in a pack that I unraveled. Like we were huge on Yu-Gi-Oh, so it was like Sorcerer of Darkness.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, getting all, and then everyone starts to get a little bit sus that someone's got all these like great cards. So all of a sudden, people are going to be, I bought these packs for super cheap. I wonder where they're getting them from. Yeah.
Nice, interesting. Yeah. I was super into Yu-Gi-Oh, but I've talked about that before on the podcast. I'm like, nope, I'm not going to do Magic. I've already gotten burned twice. Yeah.
Oh, really? Burned twice? By what?
Well, by the fact that like those kind of fell out of popularity in my friends group / community. First it was Pokemon that kind of fell out, and then Yu-Gi-Oh! And that kind of fell out, and everybody was making the switch to Magic. And I was like, I've already spent too much money on all these cards. I can't afford a third hobby. You're not going to make a fool out of me 3 times. And then now I feel like the idiot because Magic is the one that sort of had the longest life and the greatest longevity. So.
It is great.
Your bank account will be thanking you that you never did get.
Exactly.
Into it, though.
Exactly. There is some grace to that.
You can do it without going crazy though. You can definitely like I've like built decks where I've just bought individual cards for like £1 or something like that, and then built it that way. You just have to be like not. But I have also bought like a great big set for like £30, and it's had like 15 booster packs. Opened them all up, and there's like maybe like 1 card in there that I wanted.
Right.
I've just been like,
that's the thing, and I have the worst luck. So don't tempt me, Frodo. Like, don't bring me down that path. I want to, but
it's the same problem I have with the D&D minis that come in the random boxes where you just like they're based on a book or whatever. But you don't know exactly what minis you're getting. I find that very frustrating because
those are addicting. We were my god. So a friend of mine and I we were trying to get a flail snail miniature, and we knew that it was in one of those booster packs. And I think we bought we each bought each other one of those boxes a week for like 4 months. It was ridiculous. We spent way too much, and then we ended up getting it for Christmas, which was amazing. But it was that's how you also lose a lot of money very fast.
Yeah, right.
Right on.
Sorry, James, we completely went off on a tangent there, didn't we?
No, that's fine. Yeah, well, that's unfortunately all the heist news. There's no one's been found yet. So hopefully, as the weeks go on, I'll be able to update you on the state of them. But they know it's 2 people. So they're looking for 2 individuals who've got a pallet load of trading cards to sell.
All of a sudden, winning a lot of games.
Yeah, someone turning up to their local game shop and being like, "I've actually built 10 new decks this weekend."
Hey, what are these cards? They're not officially listed yet. Oh well, I don't know how I got them.
Just lucky, I guess. Yeah, so I did want to talk a little about the Disney Lorcana stuff. So it seems like an interesting card game where they have released a rules video for it. It seems pretty straightforward. Yeah, it's a trading card game, so it'll take you a couple of goes to get the rules down. But it seems to be based around the idea that you are transported to this fictional magical realm called Lorcana, and you have the ability with magical ink to draw Disney characters and bring them to life. And so you get variants of different Disney characters. So the ones they've shown so far, there was like some evil wizard Mickey, and I think Rockstar Stitch. And the artwork all looks very lovely for it. The ones they've shown so far.
That sounds very Okami to me. Do you guys remember that Japanese game? You were basically playing like a wolf spirit, and you had a paintbrush in your teeth, and you could draw things in the environment, and they would create new objects or open doors, or you could defeat enemies by doing these brush strokes. It was a beautiful game, Okami. Yeah. It was ages ago. I think it was like 2006, 2007 maybe. Yeah, kind of.
So apparently in the game you're working to collect lore about this new world that you're creating, and that's how sort of there's a point system where you're trying to create lore rather than hit points, etc.
Right.
Oh, okay.
That's actually kind of cool. Yeah, Lorcana. It's a great name.
Yeah. So it seems like each card's got like a fragment of Disney stories and stuff, and it seems interesting. And I haven't got into any trading card game probably since I was quite young. So if I was going to jump into one, I would probably go in on this for now. I really like Disney stuff, and the person who I'd play it most with would probably end up being Jade, and she's a huge Disney fan. So I could probably get some games in at least.
You've accepted Disney as your corporate overlords.
I have. I mean, it's been a while since they took over Marvel. Really, I just accepted that.
I was going to say, this sounds like a lot of promo. It's like, if I don't play games,
are you being
anymore, but if I was to play a game, it would be this one.
Is James secretly a mole for Disney? Did we not know this? They're trying to grab Rolldark up.
Look, if Magic the Gathering wants to send me a ton of cards I'll talk about them a lot more.
We'll switch over to the other side. I can hear Mickey in his office laughing now.
Oh boy, we got James.
Rolldark will send me hours.
Have you guys ever seen that South Park episode where Mickey beats the crap out of Jonas Brothers? Yo, shuts. It's so funny. So funny.
Oh
god, brilliant. Anything else, James?
So I did have one thing that is not necessarily news, and it is Baldur's Gate related. So a lot of people who haven't played Larian games before get into a bit of trouble with the new Baldur's Gate. So I wanted to do like a quick announcement almost, so people who haven't started playing it yet, which they had 800,000 people playing over the weekend. So there's not many people that are going to be playing it that haven't already started it, which is like an insane number of people. They thought there would be 100,000 tops, maybe, Larian.
Yeah.
Oh, they set their servers up for that, and then 800,000 people rocked up. But when you are jumping into co-op, and I know a lot of our DMs are doing co-op games, and friends and stuff people are playing with friends as a first time going into the game. Just so you know, if you start a game and have a friend jump in, you cannot then remove them from your party. You will have to play the rest of the game either with an empty slot where that character once was, or you'll have to wait for your friend to jump in to get the dialogue and stuff and the story from that character.
Right. Weird. Okay.
So if you have four people jump into a game and it was a game that you were going to solo in, you can't just drop in and out and do everything normally. So do a solo game and keep it solo if you're going to do a solo game, and then have one where maybe you'll drop in and out with your friends.
Yeah.
Because otherwise,
that's like real life, huh?
Yeah, right.
It's like real life D&D scheduling, yeah. It's good
to know. It's broken all kinds of records, right? Isn't it like right now one of the hottest selling games on Steam ever? Is what I've been reading and stuff like that. Apparently, it's ridiculous.
It is very good. I'm enjoying it so far. I've got a couple of grumbles. One in particular I won't mention on the podcast, but I wonder
what that's about.
Yeah, right. I was playing the other day, and I was doing some trading with like a trader in the game, and I could hear the NPCs behind me just on a loop, just constantly repeating themselves in like obviously what they wanted to talk to you about. But it was literally like the loop was like every 5 seconds they would say the same thing to each other. And it was like, I was like, it really irritated me. And it didn't just irritate me, it irritated Charlotte, my partner, who was doing the ironing while I was sat there playing on my Steam Deck. She was like, why do they keep saying that? Why don't you just go and talk to them? I was like, I can't. I'm trying to do this trade. I'm like trying to figure out what I'm doing. And yeah, right. So that was really irritating. But
that's really funny.
But the game is very good, and it also works great on the Steam Deck as well.
Nice. That's the kind of thing I was going to say. With a game of such high quality, small flaws stand out all the more, right? Because of everything else being so immersive and
perfect,
really perfect. Exactly.
Yeah, it is.
So
it is very,
like
very good.
Dialogue where you hear the same line every couple of minutes is just the worst.
It just brings you out of it straight away.
Yeah,
It's like you're in the game and then suddenly you just have that and you're like, oh yeah, I'm playing a video game.
See, but now this is a gold mine. Now I'm going to do the same thing in my games. I'm going to have NPCs that just repeat lines over and over. It seems like an easy cop-out and a cheap way to keep things moving.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And to really annoy your players. Why not?
Stop! You violated the law. Stop! You violated the law. Just over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. I wish I had remembered the soundbite of what they were saying. That would have been quite funny. I have to find it up. It's a shame.
Insert it here. We'll leave a space.
Yeah. In fact, actually, I can't because it's gonna be too many spoilers. I think for people who haven't played it yet.
Yeah, probably true. Also, Larian will come hunting you down. They'll knock on your door with the Pinkertons, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, anything else, James?
No, I haven't. So I think next week there'll be all the Gen Con news. So that'll be probably quite news heavy, and maybe we'll find out who stole all these cards.
I'll have an update for you next week, or we won't.
Fantastic.
But then an episode of Crime Stoppers.
Yeah. So, JC, Tales from the Tables.
Oh yeah, we do have a couple this week. One from Alex Maud, DM extraordinaire of Ravnica, and in his own words. So in my Ravnica game, the cleric with the absurd perception skill, parentheses, she's level 5 and can currently max out at like 30 or 31 perception, and loves to scout with her inherent Dampier spider climb. She's just ended the session with an absurdly good perception check, followed by a natural 1 on her stealth check, thus attracting nearby enemies for the 3rd session in a row.
Jesus.
Whew. Oh, that is unfortunate. To tack onto that, I've had a game where just this past week, I think our player rolled, one player out of 2 players rolled nothing above a 10 for the entirety of the session, and it was just a bunch of combat and skill checks all session rather than RP this week, and you wouldn't believe how many nat ones were snuck in there. We felt so bad. I think it was something like 5 in a row by the time we ended up counting. It was just the worst luck. So it happens, and sometimes you crit 8 times in a row. So anyway, And then we have another story from a table, but this one is coming from our Discord community, a member called Hary. In his own words, there was a great moment where the group was debating whether the Tabaxi Bard was going to die trying to talk down a gang of devils and undead with a necromantic warlord aboard a war machine in the Descent into Avernus game. This discussion took place in the chat window of Roll20, and it really gave a great sense of flavor as the conversation started to go downhill. Particularly, their favorite comment was of the party calling dibs on the bard's loot. Amazing. Thanks for the submission, Hary. That sounds awesome. A lot of games tend to do that. I think they have side discussions going on. Perfect segue into a couple of submissions from our Wayfinders game, which is the game I DM for on Saturdays for our teen players. So a couple of submissions from my players that took me by surprise when I saw this morning. From our player Bailey, JC can't say anything about not harming children. In our teen Wayfinder game, we have 2 children characters in our party, and JC targets them, all in caps. Child in the room looks like they're getting munched today. And then Oak, another player in the same game, says, I can confirm, we literally have a slogan, when in doubt, select a child. Okay, so there is context for this. I promise I'm not just some person that constantly targets children, despite what the Wayfinders might think. The context is, of course, if you introduce a heroic adventuring party to high-stakes scenarios, especially with naturally evil-aligned or evil-inclined creatures, such as mind flayers, demons and devils and undead and things like that, they're going to go for the targets that look the easiest to defeat first, of course. And often, even with more intelligent sort of enemies, they're trying to manipulate the party in certain ways. So they're like, aha, let's go for the young one or for the least defensible one. But that's only half the story. The other half of the story is that those 2 players that play children characters, in a way, play both very, very sillily, but also very intelligently at the same time, or very in character. they basically just run forward, right? Like kids are wont to do, like a 6-year-old is wont to do. They want to go exploring. They wander into a new area, and they're the first ones to trigger traps, to run into enemies, et cetera, et cetera. So there is a precedent for them getting hit first because they're always in the front lines, because they're always running ahead of the rest of the party, whereas everybody else is taking time asking me questions like, okay, what do we see? What's on the right side of this hallway? What about this area of town? What are we doing? In the meantime, I just see the tokens of the two, kid characters just whoop, 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 going all over the map. And I'm like, oh, well, now you saw the devil in the room and he saw you. So roll initiative while the rest of the party is 3 turns away from reaching you. Sorry, not sorry. So yeah, thanks, cool. Thanks, Wayfinders. Thanks for calling me out like that. Done me dirty.
It's interesting because Hary actually run a team game on Friday nights, don't you? Is that right?
I was going to say, yeah, I've been running the team game, although that group, I suppose, since I started Rolldark, and then the campaign How the Gods Play Chess we started last year, so nearly 2 years. But we're coming up to the finale. We're coming up to the final arc of that because they now know why the campaign is called that.
Oh,
cool.
Fantastic!
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, great. I mean, if it's not spoilers for them, why is it called that?
It won't be spoilers now because literally in the last session, last Friday, they've basically gone into the realm of the gods, which is split up into, the way I run gods is I have based them off of the alignments. So rather than there being a god of nature, a god of war, there are the gods of, or there is the god of lawful good, there is the god of neutral good, there is the god of chaotic evil. So everything that filters under what is chaotic evil and everything that filters under neutral and things like that. So that then is the responsibility of that god, be it creatures or people or nature. So
just a quick question: Is your neutral god just like sat on a fence, just like
that would be great imagery.
That'd be I should have used that.
Right, this opportunity is yoink, stealing that trademark.
No, but the neutral god is kind of the mother figure of the gods. She kind of doesn't. Yeah, she's kind of the.
Now you lot. This is like
yeah. But yeah, they've just gotten literally into their realm, which, as far as I'm aware, that I remember, they didn't realize that it was that realm. But then they got into this house. It wasn't like a huge castle or anything. It's just literally where they all live. They live almost like flatmates. And they got into this large room with just a round table that detailed the entire material plane. Because in my world, in my homebrew world, the Earth is flat. It is not a globe or like a planet. Because when the gods designed it, they designed it like on a table. So
on a table. It's very meta. It's like they were playing a tabletop game.
So
brilliant.
They've now seen like all of these little tokens and all of these like chess pieces. Essentially, it is more like, and one of them pointed out, it is more like a game of Risk rather than a game of chess because there's like 9 of them. And they
but
do
how the gods play
around.
Risk doesn't have the same sort of
it doesn't.
To
I had to lure them in, and I had to lure in new players. And people know chess. Kids know chess more than they know Risk. But so yeah, they've literally just discovered that round table, and they've like been talking to some of the gods, and they've kind of unraveled for themselves like why all the turmoil on the material plane is happening.
Great. And what's the age group of your players?
So I think, because obviously we started a couple of years ago, so they've obviously, I want to say the youngest is 12 and the oldest I think is 16 now.
Okay, great.
And we started with 3 players who were all from the previous campaign that I did before that, Beholder High. And then we had 4 players, then 5, then 6. And we recently had one leave who was he was one of my players at Rolldark Fest. And he kind of used used that as like a final goodbye before he had to go. And I think he was going from primary to secondary school, or he was taking on some other things. So he used that as like a final goodbye, which was really, really sweet, and I really appreciate it as well.
Nice, that's nice.
That's very cool.
Actually, there was I remember at Rolldark Fest, Hary, there was one of your players who fully committed to the bit as Caber dressed as an Aarakocra in like a full chicken costume. And it was my favorite costume of the night.
She's one of my players from my team game. She's not the one who left. She's still going strong and everything. It was really, really sweet. And if Elizabeth, you're listening, it was very, very sweet. She is currently doing her Duke of Edinburgh award, and
cool.
She asked me to be one of her. I don't know what they're called, but
reference?
she asked me. Yeah, she asked me to be one of her references because one of the skills that you can put is like improvising and role play and stuff like that. So she was like,
"Great,
would you like explain how I've progressed over the past like 6 months and how you see me as a leader and also an individual, like things like that." It was really, really cool.
That's wonderful. Great. I just got an email from one of my team players yesterday. See, proof that I do read your emails, guys. But it said, P.S., because I had done something for them a couple of months ago where I also helped them write a recommendation, or I wrote a recommendation letter for their university because they're taught at home, so they don't have professors to recommend them. And they got into the school of their choice, I think. And they were like, your letter was really instrumental in me getting in. So thank you so much for that. And I was like, oh my God, that's the best thing I've read all day.
That's brilliant.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's wonderful. Yeah. I was really happy. So congratulations if you're listening.
And also, Hary, you've got another game as well, haven't you, that you run in the week? City Pulse, is that right?
Yeah, City Pulse, which occurs on a Wednesday. And that group, I've had that group since, again, last year. And it's always been a group of 8, like the same players. They're all super committed to it, and very very like, I think some of them know each other outside of D&D as well, and we've met up in person a couple of times as well, which is really cool.
Lovely.
But I started City Pulse. Yeah, that campaign began. We did a session 0 at the end of last year, and then officially begun it this year, and that has like turned into such an amazing game because that's a really open world game.
Cool.
Set in a city, which like they've helped me expand because it's a homebrew thing, and like I've gone into so much detail about it. Which really, really enjoying that one.
Oh, good
stuff. I can't go into. I was going to say I can't actually go into a lot of details as to what that one's about because I'm playing it, and I told my players this very like cloak and dagger. It's a lot of like, there's no huge crescendo at the moment as to like you've got to get from one thing to another to another. They're literally like exploring things, taking down. At this point, they're taking down, or they're looking to take down the government, or at least like get in there somehow. And they're unveiling corruption and stuff like that, and realizing that not all as it seems. So, yeah, I can't actually say who the big bads are or what it's all about. Yeah,
that's okay. That's okay. How's it compare then, running for adults and teens?
In a word,
it's a bit of a pause. You can keep that pause in.
Yeah, right.
Because I don't know if I think about it like that too often. I think with kids, obviously, there's a lot more energy, and there's a lot more. Not times where I take off my headphones because I just kind of let them do it, and there's a lot of like talking over each other. But you definitely, I think, with kids, get players who are more into the story, and then there's players who are more into, like, they funnel their energy into more specific things. Like for me, my Friday game, there's kids who can't wait for the combat, and not to say that they're just quiet until then. I just have to, I ask them a bit more than I would others, where of like, what are you doing in this particular moment? Whereas there's kids who are wanting to push the story forward and are like, yeah, let's do this, and I'm going to suggest this, and this, and then they're kind of prepared for the combat as it is.
Right.
Whereas my adult game, I think they're all on kind of a very similar wavelength of this is like a storytelling. This is a thing of storytelling. I'm gonna go off and do this, but I understand like if I am the only one, and or there's a lot of people who will be like, no, I get that, you know, you're gonna go off and do this for 20 minutes, so I'm gonna go off with you as well, and and therefore like I'll get a piece out of this as well, and they appreciate that there's 8 of them as well. I think that's actually, rather than the age difference, I think it's a numbers difference with my games, where because there's 8 of them, they know that if they're not in something, they could not be in something for 30 minutes to an hour. So they will then go along with another character for something that might not be part of their character, but they will then make something of it for their character. Like, oh, this is a chance, although I'm not a smuggler, like this is a chance for our characters to bond, and therefore it's a chance for my character to actually progress.
Yeah,
all right, okay. Cool.
Yeah, so I would say that my kids have actually matured quite a lot over the course of the D&D campaign that we've played. So not that we're getting into like a huge amount of the adult themes that sometimes you get into with an adult campaign, but
yeah,
I definitely treat them more like adults now because they're very like acclimatized to that collaborative storytelling.
Okay, interesting. That's good, because I think with D&D as well, especially when you're playing it, you do find that whatever you put in as a player, you get back out. So if you are being sort of like chaotic or maybe, you know, you might be making sort of like immature decisions or something like that, your character ends up feeling the repercussions of that in the game.
Yeah.
So it's a really good learning platform, especially for families. I think I'm often surprised when I see like, you know, families that don't play games together. And normally when I've got like friends who've got you've got kids that are teenagers, and they say to me like, oh, you know, I don't know how you've got the patience to like run games for kids and stuff. And I'm like, well, that's the thing. It's like once you have that patience and once you sit down with them and start playing with them, you'll see that they will start to actually get invested in the game, because it's not like Monopoly or something like that where you can just, you know, children can play it and they can just go crazy with it and make all sorts of like mad decisions. Whereas with this, it's like you suddenly see the repercussions of your decisions, and the game will last longer. And there's a progression system. You know, your character, you get rewarded. Your character gets extra abilities as you go up based on the decisions that they make. It's so good for that, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I have to say, for all that I joke about chaos being the order of the day with our team game, Wayfinders, and I have run other games for other groups of kids, also teens, sometimes even a little bit younger. I think that all that chaos is balanced out by some of the absolute best role play and strategy and decision making that I've ever seen in any game.
Wow.
And hands down. I mean, part of it is that this group is by far my longest running.
Yeah.
But we've, just like you, Hary, like we've watched them mature over the course of, you know, all these years. I've been running this for 3.5 years almost. But also that just kind of lends itself to role playing in general. I think that there's something, I feel like we could get into this topic if we really needed to in some other episode, but I feel like there's at some point a bridge in our lives where we sort of lose the critical thinking and the fascination with gameplay, and how just in general as a concept, not necessarily with role-playing games, but games and gaming and competition and games in general, there's so much investment in figuring out the structure, the boundary around you, and then testing those limits and seeing what can be manipulated and what can be moved around to accomplish different kinds of results. There's so much investment in it. And of course, they're also, teens especially, are in a mode of education, and they're learning things that perhaps we've all learned in our lifetimes, but have started to use a lot less. And like the periodic table, for instance, right? Just as an example. But for them, it's fresh in their minds. So they're bringing a lot of this, like, you know, when we talk about physics, they often bring up physics examples. Or when we talk about how a certain alchemical substance will react with another one, some of my team players will be like, well, that doesn't make sense because that's acidic rather than alkaline, and etc. and I get corrected all the time. Yeah, I know exactly. I'm like, well, it's magic.
Well, in my
magic world, and in my world. Right. But no, I always listen to them. I'm always like, you know what? You make a fair point. I retract what I've said, and it acts in this way instead. Or, well, there's this different element that you don't quite know is going on here, and that influences that. But in addition to that, like, there is a hunger, I think, for solving the puzzle, and that whether that puzzle be a role play puzzle, an actual puzzle in a dungeon, or a combat scenario puzzle. How do we best approach the scenario? That really comes alive in the hands of people who have these very accessible critical thinking skills and this devotion, this passion to solving it as a group. There's a camaraderie and a spirit of companionship and of togetherness and teamwork that I feel like, at least if I can speak for myself, I tend to lose, right? And so much in adult life, you feel like you're competing against everyone else rather than sort of working together to build something. Depending on your field of expertise and what you do, of course. But even just in general in life, like you want to beat the person in the line in the queue for coffee, right? So there's so much enrichment in there that honestly, like you, I don't really, think of them as teams. I don't run these games any differently than I would an adult game. And often I've seen them make incredible decisions that I've never seen any adult player take. Can I give you a very quick example? I know I've been talking a lot, but
yeah, of course.
Okay, so this was years ago already, and I was running basically two different campaigns, but both of them Rolldark, with different groups of players, one adults, one teens, and they, for just out of sheer coincidence, happened to be in the same place around the same time frame. So in other words, my adult players and my teen players were in the same, I was running the same game for both of them, right? They were in the same ancient city. And there they found a devil trapped in a magic circle, and the devil was going to make them a deal, give them some information if they agreed to free it. And so we drew up a contract, and the adults drew it up, and the kids drew it up. And I forget the specifics, but it was something along the lines of the devil completely put in a little bit of a clause in there, as devils are wont to do, that screwed over the adult players, right? I think it was something in the name. It was like the fiend known as Cricket, because that's how they were referring to it as, or whatever, will dispense X, Y, and Z for these characters of this adventuring party. And we basically had two very similar contracts drawn up between both groups. And the adult players, when they freed the devil, ended up sort of getting a little screwed over by it. And then the teen players were about to get screwed over by it when one of them said, hey, wait a second. This contract specifically says the fiend known as blah, 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 rather than the fiend named blah, blah, blah. So we know you as blah, 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 which means that you're beholden to this contract and thus must deliver. And in that moment, I was like, well, yeah, absolutely. The fiend just stood there defeated and said, you've chosen wisely, basically, or something like that. And I couldn't have been more proud. That was such a moment for them.
Very clever, very clever. Who was it who came up with that? Do you know?
I think it was the group in whole, but I remember, I think it was our player, Sophie, who pointed it out, and that was like, hell yeah, nicely done.
A future lawyer then.
Yeah,
future barrister.
I love a double contract. I think I've had a player who, group that I was running a game for a while ago, and I had like a whole A4 like contract that I'd written out, and I was just like, yeah, that's what he's put forward. Try and find loopholes in it. And did they?
Well, I mean, any TTRPG player is clever. And then, by the way, this is not to like dump on adults. I think adults absolutely have that skills. It's just, it comes a little bit more naturally to teen players, whereas through the elements of TTRPGs like D&D, we can rediscover those aspects of ourselves, those team building and teamwork aspects and critical thinking skills and all of that stuff. So
I think the ego has a lot to answer for. I think that's probably what it comes down to. As you get older, your ego gets more and more sort of like it's all up to me. It's all on me. I'm the person that can make these. I have to be the leader. I have to be whatever it might be. And then when you're in those situations, it's that ability to, like you say, to just give agency to the other people around you to help you, and accepting that you might not be the best problem solver. You might not be the best at certain situations. You might need to answer. Yeah. You might need to be aware that Sophie is a better problem solver than you are, and you might need to ask them for help or whatnot. I think that does come into it, definitely.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, interesting.
I wish I had. Oh, so I was just going to say as a closing remark, maybe I wish I had D&D as a kid, because I didn't, and it would have made me so much more of a critical thinker and so much more self-aware.
Same.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I didn't discover it until after I was in my early 20s.
Yeah. Wow. I wish I did. Really? Yeah. I'm surprised. Yeah. Did you live in America for all that length of time? Where were you, JC?
I was in New York the whole time. I grew up in Long Island, went to NYU, met a couple of friends at NYU. We did a show together, and they were like, "Hey, have you ever heard of Dungeons and Dragons?" I was like, "That game for nerds in your basement?" No, wow. I don't play that. When are you playing? I'll come over. And they got me into it, and that was 12 years ago at this point. So
wow. Did it have quite a big stigma then for being like nerdy? Because you read Lord of the Rings when you were younger.
I did. I loved it. Yeah, when I was 11 is when I picked up Fellowship. And I was super into video games, so I knew I was a nerd. I was a consummate nerd. I played a lot of video games. I played a lot of JRPGs, and I read a lot. Loved the classics and all this other stuff. But Dungeons and Dragons and LARPing kind of with it were the two things that were like the ultimate nerd. That was sort of the perception of at least the communities I grew up in. So I never really got a chance to experience it. And this is coming from a guy who would sit at the cafeteria and play Yu-Gi-Oh, when he was 13 or 12. So, but yeah. And then my friends were like, no, it's not what you think it is. You should definitely come over and play. And I was like, okay. And that's how it started. And
did you have that moment where you were just like, oh my God, why have I never played this game before?
Yeah. Yes.
I was the same.
It was perfect because I think for all of us who are actors, it's wonderful. It's basically our chance to play a character, which we love to do. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I remember I convinced my partner Charlotte to play it, and she was like, when I first started playing it, she's like, "Oh, I'm not interested in any of that. I'm not interested in that." And I was like, honestly, Charlotte, because she's a professional actor, I was like, if you play it, you will see. And she played it, and she was like, wow, that game is incredible. Like something happened to her character the next day. She was like, that was like when I think back to it, I don't actually remember us sat around a table. I remember my character experiencing that experience in the camp, in the hut, when they set the tent on fire. That's what I remember. I don't really remember the dice rolling in the character sheets. I remember that situation, and I was like, that's what it's all about. That's exactly what it's all about.
Yeah,
absolutely. So brilliant. Yeah, but things can often go wrong in RPGs, as we know. So, what horror stories have we got?
Ooh, what a segue! Okay, so this is one I found a couple of weeks ago, but I've been dying to run it by you guys and see what you make of this. I tried to summarize it, but it didn't work out that well. I think it actually needs to be told in full. So here it is. It's a bit long, but bear with, because it's very interesting, and it actually isn't about D&D. It's about Call of Cthulhu. So here we go.
Oh, okay, cool.
This is from Reddit, obviously, RPG Horror Stories. You guys can all look it up. Posted 22 days ago. It's called Party Refuses the Call to Adventure, Calls the Police Instead. Excellent premise already.
Cool.
All right, here we go. I was excited to have my regular group try a Call of Cthulhu one-shot. I had hosted a few COC games before, just not for this group. This was also the first time our forever DM, the one from all my other stories, was a player character. I spent hours on prep and felt like a fucking idiot. The party were all college professors whose colleague had gone missing. They went to his office and found a bunch of evidence, sending them to various leads, specific names and addresses, handout letters I made, puzzles to solve, the usual plot hooks. The other players start pouring through the evidence and picking up names when the Forever DM player says, "This is a crime scene. I call 911. And the DM responds, 911 will not exist for almost 40 years. Then we should leave without touching anything and go to the police station." Then back to the DM. I reiterate there's no evidence that a crime occurred. It's a normal office and they're ruffling through papers. There's no evidence of foul play yet. Moreover, forensics is a relatively new field at this time and they would not be familiar with evidence procedure. So the other players agree that talking to the police is what their character would do. So I break character to tell them that they can explore the police as an option, but the adventure will inevitably require them to pick up the pieces themselves. When they get to the police station, I describe drunks, hookers, and mobsters awaiting processing. There's no direct evidence the guy is missing or in danger, and his wife hasn't reported him missing, so police don't give them the time of day. The police tell them to check in with the wife if they're concerned, and they give the party a home address. The party doesn't do anything with this. I even have them do an idea roll to tell them to go to the address. Forever DM says, I open a phone book and I find the number of a private detective. This story is taking place in New Orleans, so I can't say, New Orleans, wow. So I can't say that there is no detective nearby. Instead, I try to price them out of it. The detective is only interested in cheating couples. He asks for $50 a week. The party members each make $20 to $40 a week, so he's asking for about half of their total income. Forever DM says everyone can pool their money together and the others shrug and go along with it. At this point, the gears start turning for how I can pivot back to the adventure and raise the stakes, so I go along with it. The detective takes their case and says he'll give an update in about a week. The party does nothing in this time. A week later, the professor is still missing. The party calls the detective, but he doesn't answer the phone. The next day, they go to his office to give him the next payment. The window is smashed, and the door is cracked. The room was tumbled. They find all the evidence from the professor's office strewn about the room, some notes from the detective that gives them some direct next steps, mentioning a specific archaeology artifact, a location, and a person of interest, hint, hint, but no sign of the detective. I thought this would push the party to investigate, now that they were essentially out of options and right back where they started. So I gave them another idea roll and directly told them to follow up with the person of interest at the museum. The Forever DM says, this is officially above our pay grade. Now we definitely need to go to the police station to report. I looked to the rest of the other two party members, since they had to acquiesce to his reasoning. I told them in a meta sense that this isn't going anywhere. If they don't pick up the pieces, there is no adventure. And the Forever DM literally says, it's what my character would do. I told the party that this is the game, and the characters need to be willing to take risks or accept the call to adventure. If they don't, then we're done. The Forever DM says, I just don't see the hook. I don't see what's supposed to drive a college professor to accept this kind of danger. I think I'd like to end it here. Yeah, right off the bat.
They said that.
And that was it. I did a week of prep, hand-wrote notes, made maps, etc. to have a Forever DM give me the runaround and yank my chain after directly telling him and the other players to play the game twice. Afterward, the other two players told me they didn't feel like the players were clever enough to solve the case, meaning the players, not the characters, especially since the combat isn't as cartoonish as 5e. I retorted that they didn't even try, and that I instead had given them multiple idea rolls to give them direction. So we closed the books and played Munchkin instead.
Jesus.
That's the story. Wow, right?
Horrible.
Yeah, awful.
Thoughts?
I don't know what more the DM could have done to get that game going. I mean, your players have got to pick up something. And college professor, their friend's gone missing. I mean, not all college professors are going to abandon their friend if they go missing. I don't see how that's not enough of a hook.
Also, I would have argued that, that should have been it, But then when they had gotten the private detective involved, and then they went missing, or presumed they could, maybe it's Call of Cthulhu, they could presume them dead or whatever. That would then be a call to arms to. You don't have to be a hero, but to be heroic in a Call of Cthulhu game. Like,
right.
Yeah,
that should
exactly.
have been like, oh, okay, now this is our doing. Now let's go find this guy, and then like
the only thing I could think that they could have done to pull those characters in more is somehow mark them so that they knew that they were impendingly in danger, and if they didn't investigate why, then their character would die.
Yeah, and also as well, it's like the GM and the players. Like the GM is also a player as well, right? Like come on, like just cut them some slack. You know what I mean? And just help and just get involved. Do you know what I mean? And just be like, okay, cool, and look for the options. It goes back to like when we were doing the improv. We talked about improv before, the yes and rather than like the no but. As players, you have to have a yes and and you come up with your own like reasons why you should be in that story, and you should be pushing forward. It seems so odd when people are like it's just weird.
The whole it's what my character would do. Well, don't make a character that would do nothing.
It's so
amen to that.
Yeah, it's up to you. It's up to you as a player to make a character that wants to be there. So saying that's what my character would do isn't an explanation for like you checking out. You've decided to check out.
Yeah, exactly.
I always say to new players, or even when I'm starting like a new campaign with experienced players, that whenever I tell them it's collaborative storytelling, that because you were saying, Rob, the DM is a player and the players are also like narrators. It's just absolutely. That I'm doing more characters and I'm describing, like you can describe things as a player, you can describe what your house looks like and what you look like, and I'm doing the same. And whenever I tell people this is a collaborative storytelling thing, so you can say no to some things, but just kind of think of the bigger picture and how things are going to also move forward in character development and everything like that. That changes players' perspectives on D&D, especially as first-time players, so much, because then they feel they treat it almost like a movie, or they start to see things in acts or like a prologue, and then they're like, okay, cool. So this is the way forward, or this is how I'm going to create my way forward. Rather than just a hard no. The hard. What was that thing? He go back to that quote that he said. What did he say? He said, "I think we should just stop it there." Then
it was. I just don't see the hook. I don't see what's supposed to drive a college professor to accept this kind of danger. I think I'd like to end it here.
That's such an FU.
Yeah.
To just the game, like, this ain't really getting. Like, this isn't really getting me.
There's such a weird. Focusing on that one quote in particular, there's such a bizarre way of some people who will so immediately pull out at the first sign. They never, like, sometimes players don't give GMs or keepers or DMs any time of day or time to establish themselves, or rather than communicating, being like, hey, so I like where this idea is, but I'm just not liking where we're going. Can we maybe make some adjustments? Give it some time to work out. I've seen people just be like, yeah, thanks, this is an offer me, bye, click. And I'm like, wow, just like right off the gate, they like give no chance to anybody else. But
it's a lack of empathy, isn't it? That's the
thing. It's foreign to me. But the real fun, I think the comments below this are generally like us. I think 85% aligned with the keeper here, saying he had every right to lay out the story hook so that you could tell a collaborative storytelling experience, and the players just simply didn't go for it. But I think there's also, and I've had this issue as well. I've talked about before with Baldur's Gate, Descent into Avernus, the 5e module.
Yeah.
A party of people being like, well, we don't really want to go to hell. And then I'm like, why are we here? It's not what my character would do. Like, my character wouldn't go to hell. Then make a different choice, or make a different character that would have that impetus,
Yeah, exactly.
But that being said, I think there is something to be said for the other side of this. Just to play devil's advocate for a second. Not to say that the keeper was wrong. Could the keeper have perhaps worked a little bit harder on making it more personal to those players? Yes, yeah, it was a colleague of theirs and the colleague went missing. But perhaps something like really root through their backstories and find something to tie it into the larger narrative. Sure. Absolutely. Not to say that needed to happen in session 1 and that the players couldn't have put in their own effort to participate in the adventure, but sometimes that might help offset, right? So if you, for instance, are a DM or running a game of your own where you're finding it hard for the players to care about the story that's going on, add a little bit more backstory stuff into your adventure. Go through their characters, and if they didn't work on a backstory, ask them for it. And if they don't give you the time, then replace that player, because then they'll figure out.
See, JC, that's excellent professional DMing advice you've just given there. So that's your advice as a professional DM, because that's something that as professionals we would automatically do. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that's the difference when you have like an amateur DM. Obviously there are amateur DMs out there that would still do this, but it's that like when you've got a group of players and the DM is being like, okay, well I'll be the GM, I'll do that. It's like the players have to realize, and the GM has to know that that's something that they are performing something completely different to what the other players are doing, and they have to step up their game in order to really kind of get their players involved. And as a professional, when you're getting paid to do it, you automatically just go, you just know that's what you have to do, right? So it's which separates the difference, I believe.
I think so.
Cool. Okay, great. So I think we'll leave it there, guys. Thanks for joining us, Hary. It's been good having you here, man.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, well, I did have one more thing that we got suggested in the Discord. Is that after what we did last week with the creature noises? Is that we should do that more regularly. And as we've got a guest, I think it's only fair that Hary Hary up.
I'm not familiar with this because I told Rob how far into listening to the podcast I am, so I'm not familiar with this bit.
Okay, James, do you want to explain?
So last week we all, JC was talking us through how to do monster voices and sort of like embody the creatures as you're doing voices for them. So he picked one for me, I think, and Rob picked one for JC. I picked one. We picked one for each other. So I don't know if anyone's got a monster off the top of their head. I'm sat here with the monster manual, skipping through, trying to find one that isn't cruel.
I think what we'll do actually for next week is we'll get the listeners on the Discord in the podcast chatter to suggest a monster.
Ooh, that's a great idea. I love that.
Yeah.
What do we want to do? Do we want to just? Oh no, I'm not saving you. Let's pick one at random for today.
Right. Absolutely. Let's pick something really difficult.
What happened last time? Like, what was the creature?
So I did a griffin. I think JC, I gave something really horrible to you. I think it was an Umber Hulk.
Umber Hulk, right. Yeah. And my roommates were going like, "What is that strange ass noise coming from the closet?" When I was doing like or something.
Yeah. What about an aboleth?
Ooh, an aboleth.
Aboleth.
Okay. Sorry, I love aboleths. I'm super excited.
Okay, well, yeah. I mean, that's even meaner. That's meaner than
that's so unfair.
It talks psychically, so you sort of.
It does.
Hary, you're able to go anywhere with it.
I know. I'm looking at the reference art. There's okay.
It's got a horrible round mouth, doesn't it? And
loads of teeth.
It's covered in slime constantly, isn't it? It sort of extrudes the gunk.
It's got a worm-like body.
Mm-hmm.
I'll try and give you a sentence.
I've got to do it as. I don't have to make the noise. I just have to talk as that creature.
Yeah. Or if you want to pepper in noises with it as well, you certainly.
Yeah.
Oh, you can do the noises as well. Yeah.
Make it your own.
Yeah. Let's hear Hary's take.
Okay. If there's a sentence, you getting one up? Yeah, I see. Oh goodness, this is such.
While you're getting that up, here's a fun fact: they do have telepathy, but they also speak. They speak deep speech.
Oh, really deep speech. There you go.
Okay.
Okay. I have an idea.
Go for
and
it.
I'll see.
Seize it.
I think maybe I've done this in the car once.
As you do.
Okay. I don't mind you, worthless insect.
Ooh.
Okay, interesting.
I love that. That
choice.
that reminds me of someone I've seen in a movie sometime.
Is it the
what?
The Elephant Man?
No, yeah, it's a little.
I was gonna say. It sounds
it's
like John
a little
Malkovich.
actually. Like
John,
I tell you where.
That's what it is. Yes. It is John Malkovich. That's I think.
I tell you what I did the voice for. It wasn't exactly like that, but I listening to the Evil Dead remake. I was like, how can I, without any applications, do like a demon voice where it's like one by one we will, or try to make it sound like it's two voices at the same time. I was trying to. I remember in the car, like in my tongue almost.
Very good.
Right.
Yeah,
that was cool. That was a cool choice, honestly. Like I would. Yeah, I mean, maybe at first it's a little not what you expect, but I would be fascinated by something that sounds like that because it I don't know. There's a sort of, just to dig into it for a sec, there's a sort of impediment to the speech that clearly this creature feels no qualms about, right? Normally with someone who sounds like that, you might expect them to be a bit more shy, not want to communicate, they talk like this or whatever. But this is an aboleth who's delivering the line, "I own your mind, you worthless insect," and still sounds like that. So it speaks to the egoism of that creature.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
That's so cool. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Great.
Awesome.
Cool.
Wait, pass the test. You can stick around.
I'm very sorry, Hary. I
No.
absolutely didn't prepare me for that
I would have.
at all.
It's kind of a good thing that you didn't prepare me for that, because I would have thought about it for like a week otherwise.
Yeah.
It would have been all I did. But
Okay, well, great.
Brilliant.
Well, thank you for joining us, Hary, and thanks to James and JC, and we will see you guys, or hear you guys, or you'll hear us next week.
Next week.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.